Hi guys, my name is Emelie Stockhaus. I'm a freelance project manager currently working with Live at Heart Southeast. I'm hosting today's talk about data, social media and fan engagement, among many things. Joined here today with Adam Biddle, the CEO and co-founder of Ghost, a social media and content production agency based in London, UK. I got Saki Markovic, head of social media marketing at Playground Music Scandinavia and part of the EU-funded research project Future Pulse. I also got Travis Rosenblatt, a former A&R turned software developer and entrepreneur who founded Meddling, an A&R platform. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. It's going to be really interesting to hear your thoughts and ideas on this little but broad topic. As I said, we're going to talk about social media, data, fan engagement, something that feels very relevant in these times. We all, I guess, are just glued to our screens because we can't go out and socialize these days. So data and social media and fans and how do we connect with each other is really important. And I'd like to start with you, Adam. I watched your TEDx talk and you talked about data set usage. What are they in short, if you could sort of try to explain it as short as you can, and what influence do they have going forward and how can we work with them?
Yeah, so when I was talking on the TEDx, I was talking about every single person on social media has their own data set. So you yourself, as you go around on Instagram, start liking things, start commenting, starting to follow, starting to unfollow, starting to scroll, what do you stop at? This creates your own individual data set. And for the platforms, that's basically how they make money. They take all these data sets and they go, Mr. Coca-Cola, Mrs. L'Oreal, whatever, we've got all this incredible data on all these people. Would you like to connect to them? And how would you like to connect to them? What interests do you have and what are your products about? And that's how social media works, really, in its simplest format. It's like a little more complicated than that, but in its simplest format, that's how it works. So how is this relevant and why is this important for the music industry? Well, the first thing you have to do when it comes to social media for a music artist is, what are you trying to achieve? That's the number one important part of any journey when it comes to social media. Because if you ask most artists, or if you're an artist yourself or a manager, and you're managing or looking at a social media account for yourself as an artist or for a client that you're managing, 9 times out of 10, you can't actually answer, why are we doing this? Apart from, we have to. But that doesn't really mean anything. There's lots of things we have to do, but defining what you're trying to achieve from it is really important. So the first thing I would look at, and whenever I work with artists, is why are you on social media, and trying to get them to understand that. Because until you can understand that, the rest, or understanding data, is almost pointless, because how can you use the data? How can you use all of the other points that are super important? My mum's decided to join. I'm on a live panel and she's putting washing in the background. Welcome to the world of Zoom. Sorry. Here we go. Fantastic. I mean, you couldn't make it up, could you? I wish I'd planned that. So objectives, most important thing. Then looking at how you collect data to work on that objective. So I think I'll pause there before I go on to anything else and ramble anymore. But before you do anything, set out what the mission is and what you're trying to achieve on social media first.
Oh, God, sorry, I have to unmute myself. I forgot to do that. Sorry. Yeah, very interesting. Saki, you work with social media strategies and marketing at Playground Music Scandinavia. What are your thoughts on what Adam is saying?
No, I definitely agree. I think a lot of my artists come to me and they ask me, what is good content, and should I post this and should I post that? And the only reason to know what good content is to know your audience and also to try it out. Objectively, there's not like anything that is considered good content or bad content. It's just about you and your followers and what they like to engage with and what their interests are and how they connect with you on that topic or on that level. So I definitely agree with knowing the purpose of being on, like, why are you on social media is definitely the first step. And also, like, a lot of artists ask me, should I be on Twitter? Should I be on TikTok? Should I be on all platforms? And I always go, no, just be where you feel comfortable, where your audience is. You don't have to spread yourself out across all of the platforms. Just be on the few ones that you feel that you can engage with your audience at.
Yeah, sounds good. And we talk about data. Travis, you were working with different kind of data. You were working with as an A&R and signing people. Is there a similarity between the social media data and the data you're looking at, or what kind of data are you looking at?
So I'm not looking at like post content, those kinds of things that aren't just pure music song. There are a couple of ways that it relates and they have shaped each other. But if you're looking at signing an artist or knowing how a song is doing, you're looking at the actual traction of that artist or of that song rather than micro pieces of their individual content or non-music content. So, you want to look at at how a song entity or an artist entity is performing. So how it's starting to move cross-platform, and obviously a lot of that now, that consumption has moved from what we think of as traditional sales to now say traditional streaming, and now it's the consumption is happening on social as well. You have people obviously on TikTok that's mostly now music centric. You also have stories and reels and all kinds of places where music is now getting consumed outside of just a streaming purpose platform. So you have to look at how those things are happening, where they're moving. Is it happening in more than one place? You start to look at things for correlation. Are people then going and looking for it somewhere else? Is it just a piece of social content? Is it a dance? Is it a meme? Or is it actually meaningful music? Which means you have to look at other signals outside of it. Otherwise, you end up, signing 10 different sea shanty singers a couple months ago that no one cares about anymore. And lots of people did that. And I wish them all the best, but you need to look at it in terms of this is social content and this is music. The flip side of that is that you have a lot of musicians, artists creating music now that's designed to be consumed on social. You have specific styles but that are meant to go along with some kind of TikTok dance that have a certain number of breaks and changes and a certain format of bridge, and that's kind of a wild extension from where we were starting to go a few years ago when you realize Spotify, you have to have the chorus within the first 10 seconds or people are going to skip the song. It is kind of a natural progression from there, but you do have these things changing how music is getting made as well.
I thought it was really interesting. I listened to your talk on the podcast, Travis, and I listened to your TEDx talk, Adam. And Adam, you mentioned emotions and what creates. So that's, I'm going to rephrase that. You're talking about emotions with social media and that you want to have emotions. And Travis, you're sort of talking a bit, taking that away in a way. Isn't music and art all about feelings and gut feelings and emotions and how I haven't really.
You hope.
Yeah. Am I lagging for you? My internet is.
You're back now. You froze there for a second, but you're back.
Froze for a second. Sorry. That's a good thing. We're not being totally live. That we're recording it. That I can skip this part and redo it when I'm lagging. But yeah, as I said, Adam, you talked about emotions, and Travis, you talked about data. How can you connect those two? Because I guess when you're looking for new music, it's both on an emotional way of looking at it, but also sort of the charts, what's going well and not well. Travis.
Yeah, I try and draw a line and distinguish between things that are just performing well somewhere, and things that actually are, say, resonating with an audience. And sometimes those things are related, sometimes they are not. As these other two guys, Adam particularly was talking about and knows, if you want to get a lot of attention really quickly on social, you're going to engage with someone in some kind of meaningful way. You're going to elicit a response from them. And it's the same in music. And it's just whether that is, a surface level, this sounds interesting, or this is sounding totally different than anything I've heard, and this catches my ear in a certain way. Or are you actually creating a relationship with that audience? Is this something that someone's going to care about this in some way? You're going to have a meaningful reaction to, that's going to last more than just the initial, oh, this is something that's totally interesting and wild, but it's not something that I'm actually resonating with and is going to stick with me. And there's a very big difference.
Saki, you mentioned that your artist asked about being on different social medias and how do you do it. What are your thoughts on when trying to engage the audience? Say, for example, you've signed something and you want to build an audience. What are your thoughts and ideas?
I feel like what Travis was talking about is spot on, that something that does well on social media or other platforms does not necessarily have to translate into doing well on radio or in DSPs. And we've done that mistake. We've signed artists based on like their social media presence and that they have good reach on social media, and it just doesn't translate into the music or to Spotify. So it's really hard to sort of know the exact way to go. As Adam mentioned or said, everyone is on social media, and the idea is that people think they should be on social media, and definitely we encourage that, and we try and help artists as much as possible to have a great presence on social media, but it's not make it or break it, I would say. It's the perfect storm that does it. It's not just what you do on social media that's gonna give you success in your music. It's also what you do live, how you handle yourself in PR situations, what radio thinks of you, etc., etc. So it's definitely the perfect storm for us. And when it comes to data, I feel like our decisions should never be solely based on data. You should always have that gut feeling. You should always do what you're passionate about, and the passion is not data within the music industry, it's the music. So but I think data is a great way to help our A&Rs to sort of make the right decisions, but you should still always do whatever you're passionate about, and you should always trust your gut instinct as well.
Adam, you work with brands, etc., and what are the brands? Are they looking at the data more, or if they're going to work with an artist, what's important? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's lots of things that unpick here that's been previously said. Just a couple of things before I jump into the world of brands and how they work. I think the most important thing, like I said, was objective, and then it's understanding what artist you are and who you are as a music artist. That defines how you use social media. So Travis mentioned the sea shanty concept. That is a social media play, right? If someone came out and started doing that in pubs and tried to tour that, it would just be a karaoke geezer, right? Simple as that. It would never get anywhere. But the fact that it gained momentum through TikTok first, then picked up by labels, then remixed, which funny enough was done by my best mate, and then turned into a #1 across bloody everywhere. It shows the power of social media. But take it on the flip side, take the band Tool, for example. Like, they couldn't give a shit about social media. They're not sitting there when they release their album going, oh, cool, right, let's do this for TikTok. Like, what's our Instagram story strategy going to be? So knowing who you are as an artist, then working out what music you make, then who consumes your music defines how you use social media, right? And I think the issue there is labels tend to just jump on, we need a social media plan. We need to connect to your audience on social media without really understanding the authenticity of the artist and just jumping into that, you must be on social media. Again, without understanding that first point, which is purpose, objective. In terms of the world of brands, the difference between brands and music is really one main difference, right? Music connects inherently to culture, brands don't. Right? So people think, oh, Nike, what an incredible brand. That is just so ingrained in culture. It's only ingrained in culture because of the people that endorse Nike. You take the Nike tick away from all the top athletes, Nike means nothing. So it's the athletes that create the culture, not the brand. Music inherently dictates culture. It dictates fashion. It dictates movements. It dictates what drugs are being taken at a certain point in time. It dictates everything. So brands are having to be far more strategic with what they do when it comes to content. So they sit there and they think, they go, okay, well, if we're brand X, we need to fit into the vegan movement because that's massive and that feels pure. So we're going to start talking about that. We're going to align ourselves with that. And that's how they gain traction. Whereas in music, you don't think like that. You just go, I'm a music artist, I just make music. So the biggest thing that music artists can take is to sit there and be far more strategic with what their message is, what their brand means, and how they connect deeper to their audience. And think of themselves just like how a brand would. And then how do you use data from all of that? Well, if you're looking purely at social media, people think social media is great because we look at impressions, reach, video views, likes, followers, and we track those. Right? We look at those as metrics of success. What we actually forget is social media is the best feedback loop for you to actually understand what you're doing and if it's connecting. So use it far more as a feedback loop rather than chasing numbers. Chasing numbers will get you nowhere. Having 1 million followers means nothing if you're not engaging them and you're not understanding why you've got 1 million and how you got to 1 million. So from an artistic point of view, look at social media as a feedback loop, refine and return, test and learn, and it never finishes and never stops. Ah, interesting. So we worked with I don't mind saying, we worked with Robbie Williams for a long period of time. And whenever he was doing merch, we were just like, put your face in it, Robbie. Forget anything else. Put your face in it and take your shirt off if you want to sell anything. Because that's all his social media was. Social media was just, hey, I'm Robbie Williams, here's my tattoos and here's my face. Because the majority of people following him were 35 plus women from Sunderland in the UK. That was Robbie Williams' fans on social media. They just wanted to see him pretty much with his shirt off. So make a mug with that image, biggest selling item in his merch store. A mug with Robbie Williams half naked, done. So that's, again, the feedback loop you get from social media, which you can then take into merch.
That's really interesting. Travis, I wanted to ask you, what are you looking at? Well, through Meddling, for example, what are the data you're looking at? If it's not the social numbers, what are the data you're looking at when helping A&Rs or signing an artist?
There is some social, but it's much more, everything is weighted, so it's much more heavily weighted for actual music consumption. Because I can't guarantee that 35-year-old woman from Sunderland who buys that mug is actually going to buy the record. Whereas I can tell you, if they start streaming the singles, if they start consuming in a more meaningful way, then they're more likely to actually become a consumer of this person. So we're looking at, mostly sales, streaming, playlisting, some radio behaviors, any kind of engagement, and it's a reaction of what's getting pushed onto an audience, and then what is that audience actually looking for. So tracking a lot of what are even just people searching for, what are they streaming that is not just being put in front of their face, their play button. What are they actually going and seeking out, no matter how they heard of it? If it's something that, you know, happened on TikTok, as most things do nowadays, you know, is that something that they went and then engaged with in some other way? Did they then go follow that artist? Did they then go buy that thing? Was there some indication that this is actually meaningful in some way, particularly around, you know, I say TikTok now, but you know, before it was just playlisting. It was, you know, if something was getting thrown on New Music Friday, you could get in front of, you know, millions of people. Are those people going to care about that artist, or just that song, or is it just, you know, that artist for now? You have to look at things, you know, is this a real meaningful pattern that suggests that there's something to this? And then, of course, you're saying you have to have a human being actually, you know, listen to it, engage with the artist, have a plan, and want to be involved in that artist's career, you know, for the next 5-10 years, whatever it is.
Talk about fan engagement. Saki, if you want to, how do you engage your fans? Say, for example, they see or hear your song on TikTok. How do you get them to stream? So say, for example, Travis can pick it up on Meddling. How do you get that fan engagement?
Yeah, I mean, that's the $1 million question, right? There's no set answer to this. Basically, what we do as a record label, we're sending a lot of people to a landing page that we don't own. So we are sending people to Spotify or Apple Music to listen to the song or the track or the album, whatever, but we don't own that landing page. So we can't really know if the person that I sent to Spotify actually streamed the song that I was telling them to stream. So we have a bunch of other ways that we can sort of track the consumer journey as far as possible by using links, etc. But for us, it's more about the awareness and the engagement. And it's more about the long-term building of a community on social platforms. And hopefully that will, in the end, lead to people streaming whatever songs or albums that we release with the artist. So there's not like an instant feedback of me doing a certain activity on social media that leads to direct streaming, because we can't really know that. But all the community building and the engagement of artists, we can see that paying off in the long run.
Have you seen any, have you seen anything that works better or worse in these? Because things change a lot on social media. You know, is it worth? Do you want to be on Facebook? I understand that it depends on the artist very much, and how you are on social media and what social medias you use. But what are the trends you can see from a label side? What's working and not working right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's super different depending on the audience and the artist and even the platform, for sure. So it's, I wouldn't say like there are certain like trends that we can see, like if everyone is doing live on Facebook, that's going to work for everyone. But in terms, like if we're going to talk trends in like the broader spectrum, definitely I would say audio is a huge thing. It's super emerging. As well as short form videos, I would say is a trend as well. But there's nothing that we can do from our end that applies to every single artist that we work with. It's definitely a trial and error situation.
Yeah, I guess that everyone's dream today, or it feels like it, is that you will have an emerging artist. You make a TikTok video, that TikTok video goes viral, and then you have streams going through years. You're winning the whole thing. And TikTok is obviously a big thing, and everyone's talking about it right now. One thing I've seen a lot lately, though, is industry plants at least on my For You page, I love TikTok. I'm always on TikTok and sort of watching what's happening. And it feels like everyone's talking, or the kids are talking about industry plans. And I was just thinking from your perspective, from all your different perspectives on industry plans, because the kids are really aware, or they seem to be aware when there's someone, when it's not authentic. And how do you work with, say, for example, an artist that their entire audience is, say, for example, on TikTok, but the artist is not comfortable doing TikToks? How do you reach them, Saki?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I would say that another trend on social media is sort of inclusiveness, that everyone can be an influencer, and you don't really have those major superstar people that have a lot of, I mean, you do, but those are not the crucial ones anymore. You have micro influencers, you have individual creators that can impact huge amount of people. So if you have an artist that is not comfortable with doing their own creations or creating their own content, you can always use other creators to do that for you. And that is why influencer marketing is such a huge thing. I mean, you take another person's audience and try to convert them into being your own audience, and a lot of time it works really well.
How do you find that that influencer or brand to connect with an artist? I'm thinking, Adam, from your point of view with brands, etc. Is it how do they find each other, and what's the best way? What's the best collaboration?
Well, brands find influencers quite simply by paying them. It's sort of as simple as that. It's influencer has a value, brand pays for that value and sees it as a new form of distribution of media. From a music point of view, and labels now, I know some of the big labels are also doing the same thing. They have, influencer managers inside labels trying to get song X in, shopping haul video Y influencer. So it's also sort of infiltrated into the world of music as well. I think coming back to sort of how do you deal with an artist that doesn't want to use social media is something that has come to us many times, and it's actually really problematic and really hard, because the answer to that is, well, unfortunately, artist X, you've got two options. One, learn it and get involved in it and do it, or two, just delete it and don't do it at all. It's really as simple as that, because shit social media just doesn't work. You can't do it where it's done by your manager or done by your assistant and everything's signed off, which says, Beach Boys HQ. It just looks like, a newsletter or a website, and that's not what social's here for as well. No one's on social media to hear from the Beach Boys' assistant. It's just like, I want to see inside Dua Lipa's fridge. That's what I want to see. I want to see inside Lily Allen's closet and see what shoes she wears. This is what people want to see. So if an artist isn't willing to understand how social media works for them and show the authenticity of themselves on social and work out again what that objective is, best thing to do is just to not do it and find a new way to connect to your audience. Do it in a smart, more interesting way. Create a secret group through Discord and just do that. And just have 100 fans on it and just speak to them and just tell them everything that's going on. Let that 100 fans then distribute a message further. There's many different. But again, you have to be, I think, aware of who you are as an artist and be pretty smart now as an artist as to how you market yourself, more so than ever. Almost feel we're getting into the stage now. If you're looking at popular music, it's far more important how you brand yourself than what your music is. Unfortunately.
Yeah, because that's going back to that sort of emotions and feelings. Are we too dependent on data today? Is it a good thing or a bad thing, or is it just a thing in the middle, just a grey? It's neither good nor bad. Adam.
So yeah, so to answer that, first of all, what is marketing? Marketing is just one massive play of attention. That's all it is. It's whoever can stand in the middle of a crowd with the biggest sign, right, and say, "Look at me." That's predominantly what marketing is all about. It's trying to get somebody's attention. Who are the people that are really good at doing that? Those that understand that emotion is the currency of attention. Because as soon as someone is emotionally connected to something, they're hooked in. Take McDonald's, for example, just to make everyone knows what McDonald's is. If McDonald's, right, didn't have windows and just had black boards everywhere and their sign was black, you would never know what it was about. It doesn't grab your attention. But you walk past it and it has these ridiculous burgers that unfortunately are very, very not good for you nor the planet. But you walk past it and you sort of go, "Oh, fuck, that looks really tasty." And then you hear the smell and these people queuing outside it. Attention grabbed, emotional connection. I feel hungry. I'll walk in and buy something. Again, it's attention and emotion, two and two things together. And from a data point of view, again, McDonald's just know all of this. They know exactly what to put, where to put it, when to put it to make particular individual make that action. From a data point of view, I think you've got to be obsessed by it as a music artist, as anybody, because we live in a digital connected world where data is the result of every single action that's happening. So I don't think there's an emotional connection to it. The emotional connection is what creates the data. You have to understand what that emotional connection is to be able to read the data, to then be able to make that connection even deeper. That's the important part to get at.
Yeah. Travis, from your point of view as an A&R and with Meddling, because A&R was so dependent on gut feelings or emotion that this is a good thing or this is a bad thing, we're going to sign this or that. Does the data take away sort of the emotion and the feelings that, say, for example, Adam talking about reaching people, it's all about feelings and etc. What are your thoughts?
If you're doing it right, it doesn't. I mean, thankfully, that's not my job anymore. It's just my job to present, the information to the people who are doing the A&R. But I like to try and communicate to all my users that it's just coverage. It's just supposed to put things in front of you to be aware of in the order that you're likely going to want to be aware of them. I'm not telling you to sign something because people are streaming it. I'm not telling you. In fact, I would oftentimes reach out and tell people not to sign something just because I'm cantankerous and bored and would want to meddle in their issues. But I don't think there's the kind of lazy understanding of A&R research and data, which is going to say, okay, this is quote unquote researching, so I'm going to sign this thing. And then there is, thankfully, I think a more sophisticated way of looking at it that's getting adopted, which is saying, okay, this is something that is having a reaction somewhere. I need to be aware of what it is, why it's having that reaction, and see if I want to get involved. I think for a very long time, there were just instances where, something would start to react somewhere. So a label would sign it because it was reacting. Everyone knew about it. Everyone was on it. So it was probably a very expensive signing. So you had to commit, a $10 million marketing budget to it. And then that label would win. They would sign the thing. They would launch their marketing campaign and they would have a hit. And you would just kind of rinse, wash, and repeat and do that over and over again. And I think people are finally realizing if you put a $10 million marketing campaign behind anything, you can create a hit. And it's self-fulfilling prophecy. So you don't have to just chase those things. And in fact, a number of those, particularly recently, investments have not paid off. And I don't know that we've seen a second song from a TikTok kid yet, for the exception of Lil Nas X, who was the first, and there tends to be one off of every platform because it's an interesting story. Whatever Shawn Mendes was discovered on Vine, like that's an interesting story. There wasn't a second one. It becomes part of an interesting marketing tale, and everyone knows who that person is. And I don't know that you see that over and over again. So you just have to become smarter about using the numbers to tell you that you need to dig into something without saying, no, the numbers are telling me that I need to go chase this thing. I think we forget that, labels are or A&Rs, not sure which is better to pick on, the person or the corporation, but you're supposed to have a perspective. There's a reason that more than one A&R works at a label. You're supposed to have a different perspective. You're supposed to be able to have a vision for what that artist's career is going to be, and not just, oh, this thing is happening. If we only signed things based on where numbers were when we could start keeping track of these things, I think we'd all still be putting out dubstep records. Like you have to evolve. You have to get ahead of things, and I think you see instances of that where something starts sounding a little bit different and it takes off, and you realize that the audience was clamoring for something else, we just weren't giving it to them.
Yeah. Saki, you are working with Future Pulse, another data project. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. It's an EU-funded research project, and our mission was to sort of utilize all the data that we can get a hold of and try and put it into perspective. So presenting a lot of data in one place, and also trying to predict what's going to happen to a genre or a track or an album in the future. And I would say that we succeeded pretty well, although we know that nothing is 100%, but we did come up with some great ways of predicting the future. But I think, as Travis was mentioning as well, that with data, you can sort of find out that something is happening really quickly. But that doesn't mean that that's going to keep happening. And what Future Pulse did is that our prediction system is really good at knowing that thing that happened, if that's a long-term thing or a short-term thing. So our system can actually predict if a track is going up, if that track is going to fall back down, or if it's going to keep going up steadily, which is pretty cool. So in that way, you can make a more informed decision.
That's super cool. Have you been able to use it yet, in your own daily work, or how's that working?
Yeah, for sure, I use it. It was an open platform until very recently. We had to close it down, so it's behind a password security thing, but you can just reach out to me if you want to try it. But yeah, I definitely use it a lot. I use it mostly to sort of play around with it, just because I'm obsessed with numbers and data and seeing what is happening. But it's definitely a tool that is ready to use for sure.
And what kind of data are you looking at when using Future Pulse?
So Future Pulse collects data from a lot of different places and puts it into one sort of overview and one vision. So we are looking at social media, we're looking at DSPs, we are looking at blogs, we can add events, etc. So it's the perfect storm situation that I was talking. You don't just have one person, say a DSP, you have it all in the platform. So you can definitely see if it's something that is just happening on social media, or if that translates into other places as well.
Super cool. I'm thinking we should start wrapping this up. And before I sort of ask any more questions, do you have any thoughts on what anyone else has said, or anything you want to comment on?
I'm mostly just concerned that I just found out that the EU funded a competitor of mine, but I'll get into more of that later.
Yeah,
have to talk afterwards.
It is a research project, so all of our findings are open to the public. So go ahead.
But I wanted to ask if people, students, whoever watching this and are really interested and want to work with music and data, what are your tips for them? Where should they start off and how should they start working with data? Saki, if you want to start.
Yeah, I feel like when I started working with music a couple of years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, data was that thing that a couple of people did in a room at the record label in a corner somewhere. It wasn't really a thing that was accessible to everyone, and it wasn't really a thing that everyone was talking about. It was just like for certain people. But I think if you want to work in music today, and if you're gonna work in music today, you're gonna come across data. It's a household thing now. It's something that you have to learn and understand and be interested in. So music is now also definitely very tech-driven and data-driven industry. It's not just passion. So I think or passion in the sense of it's not just the old school way of doing it anymore. So I think if you're gonna work in music, you're gonna come across data anyway. So you don't have to be worried about not getting to do that if you want to work with music.
Travis, any thoughts on that?
If you want to work in music, then start there. If you want to work in data, go work somewhere else. If you just want to work with numbers, you're going to make more money doing that for Google, whoever else. If you want to work, in music, you really have to love the music in order to want to actually get into it. And then at that point, the data is just there to, and stuff you've been saying, help inform, guide the decisions that you're hopefully making around the music.
Adam, any final thoughts?
Yeah, quite simply, just get an Instagram account and just start looking at the insights on Instagram. Start there. If you're a music artist, just start every single day when you post something, looking at the reach, the impressions, the engagements, the video views, maybe putting that into an Excel sheet, plotting if you can find trends. That's the simplest way to do it. Everyone can do that. And regardless of if you end up working in data in music or not, still beneficial, because no matter what job you do, the ability to be able to analyze your work is essential. And 9 times out of 10, analysis of work in marketing requires being able to understand some form of data.
Very good points from all of you. It was lovely to have you, and you are full of very interesting thoughts and ideas and knowledge, and we're really happy to have you here at Live at Heart Southeast. Once again, thank you so much, and hopefully we can see each other in real life next year when this pandemic is over. Touch wood, but hopefully we can see each other next year. It was lovely meeting you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.